Thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be here, and on behalf of the 381,000 Hilton representatives around the world, we're just delighted to be a part of today. So, a few of which are sitting here in the front row, and if I say anything wrong, I'm going to get some glares, I suspect. So, anyway, we're delighted to be here, Ann.
So besides Hilton, you have worked at not one, but 4 of the 100 best companies to work for, which is a pretty impressive track record. What is the secret?
Well, personally, the secret is luck. I've had a great career journey and been able to work for great companies like one you just heard from, and Tim and his excellent representation of Pricewaterhouse. Also had the fortune of working at Cisco, as well as Capital One, and now Hilton. And I would tell you that there's a bit of a formula to all of this that transcends industries and transcends organizations. And it really starts with setting a true north, making sure that your leaders not only buy into it, but live it, and then make sure all of your ecosystem of programs and practices back it up. And that's true with respect to each of those 4 companies that I've had the fortune to work with, and it's not unique to any particular industry. The what of being a great place to work is pretty consistent. The how differs based on your workforce, of course.
So at Hilton, you focused on making all of the employees happy at every level, which you said translates into treating your staff the way you treat your guests. Can you describe that philosophy?
Sure, yeah, it's simple to us. It's the service value proposition. If you treat your team members the right way, they'll treat your guests the right way. Guests will be more loyal and come back for more. And so for us, it starts first and foremost with our strategy overall, which begins with our culture. And this manifests itself in the way we treat our team members around the world consistently. And then, of course, the expectation is that they turn and treat our guests with the same type of respect. This was really not a unique idea per se, but one that we've had a relentless pursuit of over the last 99 years. Conrad Hilton, I'm sure you've heard that name, founded our company 99 years ago with a little hotel in Cisco, Texas called the Mobley. And he believed that he could distinguish at that stage service when hotels didn't really exist in a small town in Texas. And it's manifests itself in the way we carry ourselves around the world now with over 5,200 properties, 381,000 team members. We're 170 nationalities represented. We speak over 100 different languages. So the interesting part of starting with culture is that it really transcends geographies and ethnicities and cultures more broadly around the world.
Definitely. And so the idea of giving your employees a 5-star hotel treatment sounds kind of expensive. Mm-hmm. What is the business case for taking this approach?
Yeah, it's interesting. We do have those internally, and particularly owners of our properties. If you know anything about the hoteling industry more broadly, we don't own the properties that we service. We generally manage these 5,000 properties, but they're owned by other businesses or other individuals. And so there is a cost rationalization that comes with a lot of the work that we do. Now that said, I will tell you, and many in the audience I'm sure know this, it doesn't cost a lot of money to treat your people with respect. It really starts with the way your leaders behave, and it manifests itself more further in the programs that you prop up from an HR perspective. These programs don't have to cost a lot of money. For example, we have a recognition program, pretty baseline, but it's a very important part of our culture. It doesn't cost us a thing to say thank you very much in the moment and recognize people for what they do as they're providing service to our guests. What we've tried to do to distinguish our approach is to do it in the very moment that it occurs. I just saw you deliver distinct service to this guest. I want to give you what we call a high five. And doing that doesn't cost us a thing. We've web-enabled it to some extent and made it mobile where it's appropriate to do so. But it doesn't cost a lot of money to say thanks. And what our people tell us time and time again is that's what matters the most. It's nice that they, of course, get paid. That's a certain requisite and table stakes. But what really distinguishes us internally is the way we recognize and say thanks to one another.
So I want to talk about the training program at the hotel, which at one point required you to be a bartender at a hotel bar.
Yeah. A little backstory to let the audience know essentially how this came to be. So like many of you, we conduct surveys regularly of our team members. That is, in and of itself, the baseline upon which we build a lot of our programs. Mistakes we've made along the journey is to build a program that didn't really resonate with team members in the front line, those that were delivering guest service in a property like this one. So we said, you know what would really make the most sense is to take our senior leaders and put them in a property so that they can understand exactly what happens in the places we call back of house or heart of house. And we created what we call a business immersion program where our top leaders spend a week in a hotel every year with an eye on determining exactly what it feels like to work in all of the roles. So I've been fortunate to do my immersions in some pretty cool places, including the San Diego Bayfront Hilton, the Vienna Hilton in Vienna, Austria, and a number of others around the world. In fact, I just did a bit of a back-of-house tour yesterday here in San Francisco, which we tend to do when we're in town, visiting our properties and visiting cities. And you learn a lot just walking around. But doing the jobs is really a unique perspective. So to do roles in housekeeping, in engineering, in bartending, which I would contend is one of the harder jobs, front desk, which you think would be easy, but it's not, because you're trying to have a bit of a personal interface with a guest while at the same time trying to register them and so forth. That's a difficult job. And some of the other jobs that you might imagine occur at a property level. We do them all in this week, and I will tell you when we're done, we're exhausted, but we're exhilarated as leaders. We're exhausted because these are hard jobs. Let me tell you, doing laundry in a property like this one or any big hotel like this one, that's hard work. And I'll tell you a small story. In San Diego Bayfront, 1,200-room hotel, I did laundry for one morning. And you walk into the laundry room, which was a room about the quarter of the size of this one, and it is stacked with laundry, towels and sheets and pillowcases, about 5 feet tall. And our job that morning was to sort all of that laundry, to put the pillowcases in one bin, and the sheets in another bin, and the towels in another bin. And let me tell you, what you do to your towels will remain undisclosed, but it's quite interesting as you're sorting them. So we got done, took us about 4 hours, and I was high-fiving, like I survived, that was great, thanks everybody. And they said, well, where are you going? That was only shift one. They pulled the chute of the laundry, and the room filled up again 5 feet, where we were going to do it again. And so those types of experiences as a leader are invaluable. And I would encourage everyone, no matter your business, no matter your industry, to have your leaders really partake in the frontline work, if you would, the work that really makes a difference relative to your company and makes your company distinct. That then led to many aha moments with our leadership cadre, where we're back at headquarters, if you would, determining what are the next wave of programs. And we're all pushing each other around a little bit, saying, you know what, that won't work. We just did our immersions, and that's just not going to work at a property level. So that training is something that's now a hallmark in terms of the way we set programs annually, and it really helps us understand what our team members are interested in.
Right. Are there any concrete changes to leadership at the company that came out of this?
Oh, without a doubt. There were many. You literally learn to feel what our team members feel at a property level. And so changes that we made, additional opportunities for flexibility at a property level, realizing that the inflection point of a career in our industry is when you get your high school diploma. How do we know this? Well, statistics show it as we study the demographics of our workforce. But just being back of house with the laundry stewards and talking to them about their careers was illuminating. And the ones that were making their way up to manager went on their own to get their high school diploma equivalency. So we said, you know what, why don't we create a program to help enable that around the country? And so we now have a GED program that allows our team members to, online now, using these incredible tools we all have access to establish their high school diploma equivalency. Thus is born the ability for them to switch roles and to move up in the organization. So those are the types of changes, just to use one example, that occurred just by being on property and experiencing what our team members experience.
Right. And you also mentioned the uniforms changed as a result.
Yeah, we most recently have formed a partnership with a company I think you'll recognize, Under Armour, to supply all of our wardrobes around the world. Again, working back of house, we wear the uniforms that you see when you're in a hotel. If you've ever had a chance to wear these or touch them, it feels very much like burlap. And so it was a lot like wearing a burlap sack all day long while you're back of house doing laundry and doing engineering jobs. It's not a great feel. And you're sweaty and you're going to be in that thing all day long. So we said, you know what, why can't we wear breathable fabrics back of house? There's no reason. It would look great, carries all the colors of our brands. So we struck up a partnership with Under Armour, and we're in the process now of rolling out new wardrobes all around the world to Hilton team members in every brand that we have. So we're pretty excited about that.
I love that. Another partnership that Hilton has is with Arianna Huffington's Thrive Global. Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I sure can, yeah. We studied our workforce again and some of the things that they were yearning for through the years, through surveys and just through talking back of house, observations. And what was really fascinating is something that I think was lost on our leaders. You know, these little things that we all carry around are changing the way we live, work, play, learn, interact with each other. Tim mentioned it, I'm sure everyone's going to mention it. Michael mentioned it at some level throughout the course of this conference. And it's no different for any of our team members around the world. And so we spent a lot of time talking to them about the effects of these devices. Just like you, they want to be connected to the outside world when they're here on property. We weren't enabling that. In fact, we were disabling it. We were saying when you come on property, put your device in a locker room and don't check it until the end of your shift. Well, that on its surface is ridiculous. If I said to anyone in this room, give me your phone for 8 hours, you'd freak right out and probably wouldn't really want to spend much more time with me and certainly wouldn't want to work for me. So we propped up actually Wi-Fi enabling devices in back of house to allow our team members not only to carry their devices, but to connect to a private network that allows them to stay connected with their day-to-day lives. However, born from that was the phenomena that we're all going through, which is digital overload, sensory overload caused by these devices. Our statistics show that on average, we are all pushing out 200 emails a day. We are bringing back 200 emails a day from outside our respective organizations. We're checking these devices 150 times a day on our social media applications and so forth. You add all that up, and in our math, within our company, at a minute per each of those emails and checks, that was 8 or 9 hours a day just on the device, just on the mobile or the computer device. Then you have meetings on top of that. You have your personal life you need to tend to throughout the day. You have the things that you're planning for later. And oh, by the way, at some juncture, you need to sleep. So you add all this up, and I'm sure Ariana will go into this in great detail, and we realized our people were spending 20 hours a day with digital overload, sensory overload, irregardless of their role anywhere in our company. We said, this is not sustainable. So we took what I think is a brave step, and we acknowledged it to our organization. We said, we see this. We recognize that it's having an impact. We recognize it's not sustainable. We don't have all the answers as to how to solve this, but we want to partner with a great organization to try to figure it out. Thus was born our partnership with Thrive Global and an initiative internally at Hilton called Thrive at Hilton. And the idea of Thrive at Hilton is to be an umbrella value proposition under which all of our people programs will exist. And so everything that we do from an HR perspective, from a people program perspective, will now live under this umbrella called Thrive at Hilton. Our health and wellness programs, our training programs, our PTO programs, our learning programs, the way we recruit and referral programs, all under this umbrella called Thrive at Hilton. And the idea is bring your whole self to work. We want to be an enabling organization for that. We want to support everything that you're interested in, and we want you to be able to thrive. And you can't thrive if you're only bringing half yourself to work. It's a pretty baseline phenomenon. Michael mentioned it as well. If we're going to be a great place to work, we need all of you. And we need you to feel that you can bring all of you and not be sheepish about it, not be shy about it. Thus was born Thrive. We're a year into the partnership with Thrive Global. We're learning a lot, and we're pretty excited about the prospects at Hilton.
Definitely. So you also have a great track record on diversity. According to Great Place to Work, Hilton is one of the top 15 best workplaces for diversity, and that's thanks in part to a staff that is 69% minority. Yeah. So what does the hotel chain do to foster inclusiveness?
Well, it starts with recruiting, but it's really born out of our culture and our history. Conrad Hilton believed that our mission should be to spread the light and warmth of hospitality and peace through tourism and travel. And that meant anywhere where we do business, be welcoming, be a home away from home, be a family when you're not with your family. And the growth that has ensued since he started the company some 99 years ago has been jaw-dropping. As I mentioned, 5,200 properties in 105 countries, over 170 nationalities represented. So at our core is diversity. On top of that, we layer the notion of this bring your whole self to work and being inclusive in the workplace. And it's a great recipe for what I think is a great demographic representation of society as a whole that you see at our property level. Now, as you might imagine, as you work your way up the organization in various pockets of our company, we see the same thing that we see in other organizations. Those representative numbers drop off a bit. And our diversity inclusion efforts are really focused on making sure that those demographics make their way up in every part of our organization around the world. This is a big challenge. I think in the United States, we're pretty advanced in this regard. The language that we speak, the lexicon that we share with one another, the discourse that we have is very advanced. In parts of our portfolio, Saudi Arabia, for example, if we were to have a meeting like this, we literally would have a curtain down the middle of the room, and the women would be sitting on that side, and the men would be sitting on that side. And they're not allowed to look at each other in the course of a day in our workplace. Now, those rules are softening, but that's what we cope with when it comes to diversity in various pockets of our portfolio around the world. It's a challenge.
How do you keep the company's values consistent across such a large number of employees?
Yeah, it really starts with our purpose, what we call our purpose platform. We believe our purpose now, on top of what Conrad Hilton laid out some 99 years ago, is to be the most hospitable company in the world. We think we have the makings to do that. It's a bold ambition. It's rather audacious, we know. But it starts with that true north of being the most hospitable company in the world. If we're going to be the most hospitable company in the world to the outside, we better be that on the inside, or it's just not going to work. And so our inclusiveness and equality and diversity efforts really start with respect. Recruit the right talent into your organization, respect what they bring to your organization, have enabling programs to let them be their best, irregardless of what country or nationality or geography or level or diverse metric that you can think of as being represented. That's really our starting point. The other thing I would say and share with the audience is because of the diversity of our workforce around the world and because of the different geographies we're doing business in, we really obsessed about keeping our purpose platform, our vision, our mission, our values, very simple. So our values are easy to remember. Hospitality, integrity, leadership, teamwork, see where I'm going with this? Ownership, and operate with a sense of urgency now, Hilton. Now, we did that consciously. We didn't mean for it to be too cute by half, but the idea there was we wanted it to be memorable everywhere we do business and translatable, if you would. And we really obsessed over making sure that that simplicity cascaded all around the world. And I'm proud to say that now, almost 10 years in with that value set, we have 99% recognition around the world because I think of that simplicity. So it now represents the way we recruit, the way we measure each other, the way we talk in the hallways, the way we reward, the way we retain is all really grounded in that purpose platform of our vision, mission, and values. How it shows up is interesting. I will just tell you, in dealing with any organization outside of ours, I always have in the back of my mind, be the most hospitable company in the world. And so I, like you, get the calls from 13 different vendors every Tuesday about wanting to do business and so forth. And it'd be easy in the frustration of a day to sort of truncate my response and say, no, please stop calling us sort of thing. But in the back of my mind is this, be the most hospitable company in the world. And so that's how we carry ourselves really on a day-to-day basis.
Right. And has there ever been a risk that you took at the company when you were not sure it was going to pay off?
Yeah, I'll use a simple example. We all came together as a leadership team some 9 years ago. Hilton was privately owned, purchased from the Hilton family by Blackstone, private equity, and whole new management team brought in. We moved the company's headquarters from Beverly Hills, where it had been for some 70 years, to McLean, Virginia. Started with 50 people from Beverly Hills to McLean. We now have 1,000 at our headquarters. And one of the risks we took early on was an interesting one, and you may laugh at this example, but we all got there and said, can you show us the results from the surveys that we've done over the last several years with our team members around the world? And the team that came with us to McLean said, well, we really haven't done any surveys of our team members around the world. And we were like, yeah, you're kidding, right? No, we're not kidding. We've never really done one. And we really can't because of the way properties work. People can't go to a computer in the back of house and fill out a survey. And we said, you know what? We think they can, and let's try. And by the way, you don't have to go to a computer anymore because even back then, these things were raging, and we could have just given you a URL and go fill out a survey. So we took a risk, despite lots of advice internally to not do it. We conducted a survey and had 92% participation around the world, over 150,000 participants, lots of data points pouring in, and it was a simple risk to take in some ways, fairly low table stakes, but you know, it's the simple things that can make a difference. And I will tell you, over the last 9 or 10 years, Ann, that was an inflection point for our organization because feedback started pouring in, people realized that their voice mattered, and they started innovating again at a local level and giving us their thoughts and ideas of how we could be better. And that's made a huge difference, and in fact, it's, in my opinion, why we're able to be a great place to work now. We weren't back then. We didn't make the lists. We are now because we're seeking input from our team members around the world. They're proudly giving it to us, and we're listening and making changes at a ground level to property, not unlike the one just up the street. So, and you're probably wondering, none of the team here stayed at this hotel last night, even though you did. So just for the record, I want to mark my card on that. Boss, if you're watching, we stayed at the Hilton. Yeah, so.
One last question. What is your best piece of advice for folks here in the audience who want to go home and create their own great place to work?
Yeah. Look, my advice would be, number one, you can do it. Number two, keep it simple. Number three, get buy-in from the top, because really that's where the tone is set. And number four, seek input from all of your team, everywhere you can. Number five, be humble about it and admit that you may not be where you want to be right now. And I think that's the recipe for success, and at least that's what I've seen in the 4 companies that I've worked for that remain on the list seemingly year in and year out. That's the formula they use. I think it sounds simple. It's not, because sometimes being humble about the fact that you don't have it all figured out is a tough thing to do in an organization. And the last thing I would say is this stuff doesn't have to cost a lot of money and wreck economics of your enterprise. I know that's often the pushback we as HR practitioners get. We've got the seat at the table that we've been talking about for decades now. It's now a matter of proving our worth relative to that seat at the table, in my opinion. And I think we can do that by showcasing that you can move the needle and become a great place to work by simple steps and setting a true north and following it.
Makes sense to me.
Great.
Thank you so much
Thanks
for being here.
allowing me to share the story. Thanks, everybody. Good luck with the rest.